Chapter 22, Past Events. The atmosphere, at some point, became somewhat oppressive without anyone knowing when it started. Tia Bai slowly straightened his body, his expression changing uncertainly, making it impossible to discern what he was thinking. Ziyikai remained silent for a while before saying, Master Tia, I have also hesitated for a long time about this matter, but I feel it wouldn't be right to keep it from you. Tia Bai took a deep breath and nodded. Nephew Z, I understand what you mean. Thank you. Ziyikai nodded in return, then seemed to remember something else. Master Tia, although junior brother Zhang seems to know the Ghost King and his daughter, it seems he hasn't fully embraced the demonic path yet. However, the people of the demonic sect are treacherous and ruthless. Junior brother Zhang is still young, and there might be some danger involved. Tia Bai snorted, his face cold. That scum. Let me see how I'll discipline him when I get back. Ziyikai glanced at him and said, Master Tia, I have something to say. I wonder. Tia Bai interrupted. Go ahead. Ziyikai continued. I hope that by informing you about junior brother Zhang privately, we can handle this situation before it escalates. Senior brother Kang Song has always been in charge of Qingyun's punishments, and he's quite stern. If he finds out, junior brother Zhang. But after all, he's your disciple, and you must have invested a lot of effort in him over the years. If things get out of hand, it won't look good for both you and senior brother Kang Song. So double quotes, he lowered his voice. If junior brother Zhang hasn't committed any serious offenses, you can advise him privately, and that should suffice. Tia Bai raised his head, looking deeply at Ziyikai. Suddenly, he said, Nephew Z, you indeed possess the demeanor of a great leader. It's no wonder our sect leader values you so much. It seems that in the future, the position of sect leader will undoubtedly belong to you. Ziyikai lowered his head slightly and said, Master Tia, you are too kind. At this moment, Tia Bai's face had returned to normal, and he smiled faintly. Very well, you should rest soon. Your kindness this time will be remembered by the Deju Peak, whether intentionally or not. He emphasized the words Deju Peak. Ziyikai, however, seemed not to understand anything and just smiled. Master, you are too courteous. Tia Bai nodded and walked out, alone in a secluded part of the forest. Tia Bai stood with his hands behind his back. It was late at night, the sky dotted with stars, and the bright moon hung high. The moonlight filtered through the dense branches and leaves of the forest, shining down on him. From the darkness, one could see furrows on his forehead, indicating some deep thoughts. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind him. Tia Bai turned around and looked back, suddenly stunned. It's you. The person was his wife. So are you? In this desolate night in the quiet forest, she walked quietly, as if in an instant, eyes were drawn to her, as if the passing years hadn't erased her beauty in the slightest. So are you approached, glanced at Tia Bai, a smile appearing on her lips. You just asked Darren to call Xiaofan here, but Xiaofan wasn't there. I sent him to Grand Venerable Jin Gang's place. He should be here soon. Tia Bai nodded, glanced at Su Are You, as if wanting to say something, but hesitated. Su Are You said lightly, you went to see Ziyikai tonight and came back with a furrowed brow. Is something wrong? Tia Bai sighed. His expression relaxed a bit, and he smiled. I know I can't hide anything from you. Then he recounted what Ziyikai had told him about Zhang Xiaofan. So are you listened quietly, pondered for a moment, then shook her head, regardless of whether Xiaofan knows the Ghost King and his daughter. Even if they do, I refuse to believe that he has joined the demonic sect or is a spy infiltrating Qingyun. Tia Bai snorted. I already knew that without you saying it. Humph. Of all the disciples I've had over the years, from the first to the sixth, none have caused me as much trouble and annoyance as him. So are you glanced at him, smiling, but of all your disciples, from the first to the sixth, none have made such a name for themselves in the 7 sects competition, right? Tia Bai paused for a moment, a hint of embarrassment appearing on his face. That's because back then, I went to see you the night before the competition, and we spent the night together on the rainbow bridge of the Tianyin Peak, watching the stars and moon. I didn't get any sleep that night. When it came time for the competition, I had no energy left. How could I be a match for senior brother Wan? Theft? Su Ru chuckled. Oh, my Tia senior brother. They say 300 years ago, when you participated in the 7 sex competition, you only made it to the top 4, and you still wanted to defeat senior brother Wan. Tia Bai was caught off guard by his wife's teasing, his face showing some embarrassment. Well, that was because at that time, I was thinking about ... the night before the competition. I went to see you, and we ... I didn't have any energy left when it came time for the competition. How could I be a match for senior brother Wan? Hey, Su Ru chuckled. Oh, my Tia senior brother. They say 300 years ago, when you participated in the 7 sex competition, you only made it to the top 4, and you still wanted to defeat senior brother Wan. Tia Bai was caught off guard by his wife's teasing, his face showing some embarrassment. Well, that was because ... I ... at that time, I was thinking about the night before the competition. I went to see you, and I didn't have any energy left when it came time for the competition. Pa, Su Ru spat, but her face flushed slightly, looking tenderly at the man in front of her. Senior brother Wan had extraordinary talents and intelligence among our disciples of the same generation, except for senior brother ZhuXian. No one could match him in Taoist cultivation. What about you? Entering the top 4 was already enough to make your master laugh so hard he couldn't close his mouth. Yet you still wanted to defeat senior brother Wan. Tia Bai chuckled, his mood evidently improving. Senior brother Wan is indeed far superior to me, but you chose me between him and me back then. It shows that I must have had something better than him. Su Ru gave him a glance. I was blinded and confused back then to follow you. Tia Bai didn't get angry after hearing her words, just looked at his wife, chuckling, his eyes full of laughter. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed Su Ru's boneless hand. Su Ru glared at him, whispering, "We're so old. Why are you being so cheesy? Besides, Xiaofan will be here soon. What if he sees us like this?" Tia Bai just smiled and didn't say anything. He looked at his wife, his eyes full of warmth. Suddenly, he held her hand tighter. The night was quiet, and there was no one around. The cool night breeze gently blew, rustling the leaves in the night. In the woods, it was peaceful. After a while, Su Ru suddenly said, "Actually, I feel that Xiaofan's current appearance is somewhat similar to how you were back then." As she said this, she raised her head and looked at Tia Bai. "Have you noticed it yourself?" Tia Bai was taken aback for a moment. "Really?" Su Ru smiled and said, "What's with that expression? Back then, you seemed a bit foolish too. Everyone thought you couldn't compare to those ambitious brothers. But, in the end, among the disciples of Jade, you achieved the greatest success and the highest level of Taoist cultivation. Your master even passed on the position of the head to you." Tia Bai snorted. "That's called being reserved, not foolish."